these coins in. And he tells her no, but the coins don't. Krieger, being alert, contacts Kevin Nicolino of the Sheriff's Department and says, hey, what do you guys got on this? And Kevin tells him, well, we've got an indication of a short, white, blonde woman and an indication of a white, tall, white guy or a light-skinned individual. And what was taken? Coins. Coins. So Krieger says, hey, we just guess what? Jody Fetty goes in, she runs these coins to the coin store. 740 quarters. She takes that, she cashes it in, takes the receipt to the clerk, cashes it in. And comes out to about $186. Clerk gets her ID. She goes out, and at that point, Cortez Oliver, who was in that car at the time, got a little nervous because you can see this officer talking to Jody Fetty. He got out of the car and he ran. He left Jonathan's vehicle. Left Daryl's vehicle. As Daryl was pulling out, Krieger radios Officer Burrell of MPD and says, stop that vehicle. Daryl Dukes, seeing the police car coming toward him, just pulls into a parking space and stops. At that point, they're detained until the Portage County Sheriff's Department gets there, and they begin asking questions. The upshot of that is there's some coins in collector's sleeves that they see in plain sight on the floor of the vehicle. After much conversation, Jody Fetty is arrested. She's taken into custody. Daryl Duke says, hey, I don't know what went on before, but these guys, I just met them, they wanted a ride, I gave them a ride. They cut him loose. He leaves. He's given a ride to Robinson Memorial Hospital parking lot. The investigation continues. Jody Fetty is taken into custody. She's interviewed, and eventually Daryl Dukes is contacted. They say, hey, come on back. We need to talk to you. Daryl does. He comes back. And after talking to him, they arrest him. Sometime around 6 or so in the morning, Cortez Oliver shows up at the Sheriff's Department looking for his keys that he says he left in Daryl Dukes' car. They say, come on back, let's talk. They do that. And eventually Cortez Oliver is also arrested. So Jonathan Dukes here has a chance to come in. He doesn't do that. He's eventually caught later in that morning in someone else's vehicle. He's arrested and taken to the Sheriff's Department. The interviews are conducted with all of them over the course of a few days, and we're going to play Jonathan's interviews for you. Now, with reference to the charges in this case, we've talked about this before, but this is a 3-count indictment charging Jonathan Dukes with the offense of aggravated burglary, the offense of aggravated robbery, and the offense of murder. You all know the elements involving those. Aggravated robbery is that on July the 2nd, 2009, Jonathan Dukes, in attempting or committing the theft offense, recklessly inflicted or attempted to inflict serious physical harm to Richard Lowther. The charge of aggravated burglary is that he did, again on July 2nd, by force, stealth, or deception, trespass at 2954 Talmadge Road, an occupied structure, when other persons, that would be Richard Lowther, are present, with the purpose to commit therein a criminal offense, and that he did recklessly inflict, attempt, or threaten to inflict physical harm on Richard Lowther. The murder charge, and this date is July 30th of 2009, because you're going to hear that that's when Richard Lowther actually passed away. But Jonathan did cause the death of Richard Lowther as a proximate result of committing or attempting to commit an offense of violence that's a felony of the first or second degree. To wit, and you're going to see a list of 5 different felonies on there. They're all first or second degrees by statute. They're all felonies of violence by statute. You're going to see or between each one of those, not and. You need find only one of those apply in order for the state to meet that particular element in the offense of murder. You're going to see felonious assault, aggravated robbery, robbery, aggravated burglary, burglary. Only need find one of those exists. Let's talk a little bit about complicity. The state had the option of charging Jonathan Dukes either as a principal, which we did, or as a complicit for. We chose to charge him as a principal because we feel the evidence is going to be enough so that you can find that Jonathan Dukes laid hands on Richard Ballard. Even if you don't, you're going to hear the judge tell you the law on complicity. Talk about people who aid or abet stand in the same place as the persons who actually commit those acts. I suspect that Mr. Whitaker is going to talk to you and you're going to hear some evidence about intervening causes. And the judge is going to probably instruct you on the intervening causes and tell you the law on this. But the upshot of this is that some other factor, other than Richard Lowther's neck being snapped, other than that dislocated fracture of the spinal cord that caused him to become paralyzed, and not be able to breathe on his own, that some other cause resulted in his death, something that happened after that at the hospital. As I told you earlier, you're the finders of the fact. You get to decide that issue. No one else gets to decide that issue for you as to those intervening causes. You can't let anybody tell you that it exists if you don't think it exists. We're going to present to you Dr. Dorothy Dean, who is the assistant medical examiner in Summit County. Dr. Dean is the only witness you're going to hear from in this trial who actually laid hands on Richard Lowther after he passed away and did a physical examination of his body. She's going to tell you that he died from complications of a spinal cord, and that's what killed Richard Lowther and nothing else. That was the cause of death that Dr. Dean put on the death certificate for Richard Lowther. Unfortunately, Dr. Dean is going to be out of town this week. We're not able to bring here to you live, but the state felt it was so important that you hear from the person who actually did the autopsy on Richard Lowther that we took a video deposition of her, and you'll hear Mr. Mishniak and Mr. Whitaker questioning her on that deposition, and we'll play that for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt that after you hear all the evidence, and that you apply the law as it's given you by Judge Enlow, that you will have no trouble finding Jonathan Dukes here of acting either as a principal or an aider or a abettor in participating in the aggravated burglary of Richard Lowther's residence, the aggravated robbery of Richard Lowther, and that in doing so, either Jonathan Dukes, as again as a principal or an aider and abettor, inflicted serious physical harm to Richard Lowther, and that as a proximate result thereof, Richard passed away on July 30th of 2009. I believe that you're going to be able to listen to everything that's presented here and make a finding of guilty on all three of the charges in the indictment of Jonathan Dukes. Thank you very much.
Whoever has a cell phone,